welcome to the Week 9 morning halftime show. Matt Harmon is not with us today, so Andy Behrens is joining me. He is going to be manning the chat. We have to talk. Andy, welcome. Welcome to the space. Do you feel virtually very safe and secure? Very optimistic? Talk to me here.
I do. I am feeling entirely safe and secure. I don't know that I can fully replace Matt. I'm going to do my best. I know he is a huge presence in this chat, so hit me with the emojis. Give me all the usual stuff that flags Matt's attention in the chat room.
Listen, you've got emojis and sarcasm. You're almost all the way there. Let us begin, though, with the injuries. Obviously, the biggest one, Kyle Allen left with a gruesome knee, ankle injury. People on Twitter were comping it to, at least the end of it, to a Dak Prescott's in terms of the way it looked. He is certainly out, likely for the season. Alex Smith, ironically, who suffered the gruesome leg injury, is now under center. Dwayne Haskins not active for this contest. So you're seeing also this Washington squad as a whole be pretty shaken, similarly to the way that the Dallas Cowboys were across the board a couple of weeks ago. You've got Alfred Morris running. You've got this Mac kid scoring against them. So I think the Washington football team seems pretty shook by what they just witnessed.
Yeah, I'm not exactly getting everything that I'd expected out of the Washington defense, which was probably the most popular defense to stream this week. A couple of touchdowns given up that were set up by Washington fumbles, which was brutal to see, of course. Evan Ingram suddenly appearing in your box score again, just an ugly day all around for Washington.
Evan Ingram, though, there's been a concerted effort to connect he and Jones, and obviously if you're dealing with the Washington defense, easier to exploit rather, in the middle than on the outside. So we'll keep you updated on that one. We also have David Johnson being ruled out. He was knocked out. Miles Jack hit him. He has a concussion. So if you see a Johnson active in Houston, it is not David. It is in fact Duke. And the score between the Texans and the Jaguars a little bit closer than I think people were initially anticipating.
Yeah, what a fun game. Right off the bat, Jake Luton hits DJ Chark on a beautifully thrown ball, and Chark had absolutely roasted the defense, right? Had already 5 yards on the nearest defender. And he's got 4.3 speed, so he just marched down into the end zone. If they're gonna if they're gonna make Chark happy, then this offense can run smoothly. Robinson is having a big day. It's just a fun game overall for fantasy.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this matchup a little bit more, but one of Andy's picks from FFL, Brandon Cooks, also having a very big day. Another injury we need to discuss, Noah Fant, who was a player that, Andy, you were high on heading into the week. I think we both were in this Denver-Atlanta matchup left. He's been dealing with an ankle injury. It looks like it might have been aggravated again in this contest, so he's not fully healthy. We want to watch out, obviously, for Albert O, see if he can pop. He's been a red zone, end zone security blanket for his former teammate Drew Lock over the past few weeks.
Yeah, brutal situation for Fant, and you said it. He's been limping around basically all year, right? Almost every big play is made the full season. He gets up limping and trots off the field. So I wasn't initially panicked about it, but doesn't seem good. He's still just got the one catch for 32 yards, and he was set up for such a huge day. Atlanta's defense allows the most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. And they've given up huge weeks to some really sketchy players, too. It's not just stars that go off against them. It's everybody that's gone off against them. And now it looks like Fant isn't going to be part of the party.
Last injury, Laviska Shenault left with a hamstring injury. And, you made a brilliant turtle analogy on Twitter. I'll let everybody check out your handle. But Phillip Rivers had his pride a bit hurt in this one. So that's going to lead us to what's tilting or jilting us. And I think for a lot of managers, perhaps the Indianapolis Colts backfield continues to be a constant tilt. Are you feeling good about some of the things we saw out of Jonathan Taylor at the top of the game, the fumble, and then tortoise analogy notwithstanding?
Yeah, we were going to learn a lot about both of those backfields, right? About both Baltimore and Indianapolis in the same game. And it turns out the right answer in Baltimore's backfield is maybe nobody in this matchup with Indianapolis. Yeah. Nobody's really doing anything for fantasy purposes. And then Jonathan Taylor took back a legitimate role, right? Jordan Wilkins and he seem to be roughly splitting the carries. I'm not sure where the snaps are at right now, but Jonathan Taylor has the touchdown. That's certainly good to see. I didn't have the courage to start him this week myself. I've got him on a couple of rosters. couldn't plug him in because I thought Wilkins would be a big part of the picture, and he is, but Jonathan Taylor is still in there as well.
But also, a point that Tank always makes about this backfield and Frank Wright's Boothang choices is that you've got, DeMichael Harris is in here with 2 carries as well. So it's not as clear cut as, other than the fact that you're right, Taylor has the touchdown. I mean, I don't know, then when he fumbles, maybe the favor will lead somewhere else. I love the point you make about the Baltimore backfield as well. Who else might be? You know what, I'll say Will Fuller is tilting me a little bit. There were obviously some trade rumors about him going to Green Bay, and then Green Bay saying, well, we don't know if it's worth it. Like, I don't know, maybe not. That might do something to a player's sense of security. But he did not see a target until well into the second quarter of this game. And in fact, it's been all Brandon Cooks against Jacksonville.
Yeah, it's funny. We came into the season thinking, well, Will Fuller is exactly the sort of wide receiver, too, that, like his big weeks are going to carry you to wins, and then he's going to have a lot of quiet weeks. But instead, he just scores a touchdown every week. Like, to this point in the season, he's been like a touchdown per game. He's been steady, which is exactly what you don't expect from Fuller. Until today, he's been completely quiet in the box score. You mentioned it. Brandon Cooks had a relatively short reception. They took a long way. Cooks has been great, not just today, but his previous 3 games, he'd seen 30 targets, and that kind of volume from Deshaun Watson, and then you throw in a matchup like this against Jacksonville, obviously he was bound to go off.
I mean, you called it. We faced off against Darius Slayton, my pick, and Brandon Cooks, yours. So listen to Andy, unless he's making a bold prediction, then maybe not. Andy, let's talk about, if we're going to talk about maybe some sore spots, Josh Allen. Despite how any of us may have projected him heading into 2020 or heading into 2019 even, when it comes to the Seattle Seahawks defense, even with the additions of Carlos Dunlap and some of the other pieces they got back, Josh Allen is fire. I mean, if whoever started him in our Guru Challenge is absolutely smiling right now because he's passed for 3 touchdowns, almost 300 yards, and you've gotten all of these receivers involved. Stephon Diggs, 7 targets. John Brown, 8 targets, and then you've got touchdowns for Gabriel Davis, and Cole Beasley remains efficient as ever, making key receptions to set up various big plays, even if he hasn't necessarily had himself a splash just yet.
Yeah, great ball placement from Josh Allen too. It's pretty much a clinic to this point, which is it's like first 4 games version of Josh Allen. We talked about this on the podcast a little bit this week. Like his first 4 games, 12 touchdown passes, only 1 interception, a couple of fumbles in there, but in terms of passing performance, he was almost flawless. And then his more recent 4 games, it's 4 touchdown passes and 4 picks. But today, in a great spot, great matchup against Seattle, and of course Seattle is still going to find a way to score 30+ points this week. That's what they do. Sure, it's going to be a huge second half from them, but Allen is fantastic so far. They're going to make obviously a pretty strong run at QB1 for the week.
Right now, Russell Wilson and the Seahawks are down by 14, but Andy is right. I do also anticipate a big second half comeback. DK Metcalf continues to make these giant, I don't know, you want to call them skyscrapers, rainbows, moonballs. He's catching all of them that are beautiful on a highlight reel. He has 62 yards on 3 catches already. Andy, where else do you want to go? Do you want to check the chat, see what's popping there?
We can check the chat.
All right. Oh,
man. So the very first thing that I see is from RNG asking, where is Lockett? This is getting old. I don't really want to hear complaint. And they put in like a really angry face emoji too. I don't want to hear complaints from Tyler Lockett owners. I just don't want to hear it. We know the deal with Tyler Lockett this season. DK Metcalf has been the bankable play for, he's 90 yards every week, usually a touchdown. Tyler Lockett's blow-up weeks are you win. You automatically win. His blow-up weeks are 180, 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. And yes, you're going to get the occasional 4-catch, 40-yard performance. He's great. Seattle is going to have to do their usual Seattle. No Seattle game is ever normal, and they always have some heroic supernova fourth quarter. You know what's coming. And I feel like maybe you're just complaining about Lockett because you can set this up, because you can prompt the comeback. Obviously, Tyler Lockett is going to do some stuff. Number 66 says they benched Josh Allen for Justin Herbert. Sorry, I need to vent. I hear that too. benching Josh Allen would have been painful. Obviously, he's been a little sketchy. Like, Herbert might still do a thing. I don't know. I wouldn't say that hope is entirely lost there.
Andy, I think before you go on, you're doing an incredible job of standing in for Matt Harmon. I mean, you're standing hard for Tyler Lockett and throwing shade at anyone who says otherwise. So, fantastic impressions right now.
I mean, I can't believe that people consistently come at Harmon about Tyler Lockett. Like, really, is that getting old? The Tyler Lockett experience is getting old. Give him to me. Bring me all of your Tyler Lockett shares if you're tired of this nonsense.
What about your Christian McCaffrey shares? Because in his return after a couple of weeks with the MCL injury, he scored the first touchdown of this matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs. And Carolina has led and is still leading, granted, by only 4 points against the Kansas City Chiefs. But you've got Robbie Anderson already drawing 7 targets. Christian McCaffrey finding the end zone, catching a little pitch from Robbie Anderson. I like the trickery there. If we're talking about Andy Reid always getting creative with his numerous pieces, like to see it from Matt Royal himself.
Yeah, this has just been such a fun game, and the play calling in this thing is so fun. The Chiefs, everybody's probably seen it already, the touchdown where they actually motioned Patrick Mahomes out of the backfield, then back in, and then he catches a shotgun snap, circles around, throws a tee. Like, this is a super fun game. Great play callers, great play calling. Can we give Joe Brady a head coaching job, I don't know, this afternoon, like maybe at halftime of this thing? It's just really, really fun. And one thing that we're seeing with Christian McCaffrey is like exactly what we saw on Thursday with Aaron Jones, which is when the featured back is ready to go, like they are ready to go. There were all kinds of reports pregame that, well, Mike Davis is probably going to rotate in. We really like Mike Davis. Then maybe they'll split series for a while. I mean, Davis has barely been a rumor in this thing. I think 14 touches for McCaffrey at half, or at least when last I looked. And he looks great because, in part, they gave him many weeks to heal up, right? Like, they didn't rush him back from this injury. This isn't the Saquon situation from last year where they only let him sit for a couple weeks and then he looked like a, shadow version of himself. McCaffrey looks like vintage Christian McCaffrey, and he's clearly going to play just about every snap of the second half of this game.
That's a great analogy when you draw it to Saquon Barkley. Maybe could even make the same argument for Alvin Kamara and the Saints last year. Obviously, though, the Saints were in a postseason position and they needed Kamara to come back sooner, or felt they did. It was weird to see the Giants rush Saquon back because, come on, let's be honest. Let's look at the NFC East. Let's look at the NFC North really quickly. There was some jibber jabber heading into the week about who would be the biggest beneficiary with Kenny Golladay nursing a hip injury. And in terms of volume, it has been Danny Amendola, leading this receiving core with 7 looks. He's caught 5 of them for 40 yards, but nothing really exciting going on here other than Marvin Jones catching his only ball for a touchdown. And, we pretty much thought that Tank was definitely pounding the table for Jones as a nice floor play in week 9.
Yeah, what a weird week for the Lions overall, right? Like, their quarterback can't practice all week. They don't see him all week until game day. He flies separate from the team, stays separate from the team due to the COVID scare. So strange week for the Lions. Adrian Peterson already 3 catches in this game on 3 targets, which is not what you would expect. And DeAndre Swift, wow, a lot of touches out of the backfield. He's got 11 carries for 64 yards. That's pretty good to see if you invested in DeAndre. I did, and I have him on a lot of benches today, and I am regretting that somewhat. I can also, I'm just going to pledge right now to not even write about Danny Amendola in the pickups column. I feel like we can pretty much guarantee that this is a one-and-done week from Amendola.
I appreciate you forewarning all of us. And you're right, we're going to get that question, certainly. How did we not see, though, Andy? I mean, you were talking about the Lions backfield, but how did we not see the Amir Abdullah revenge game coming? He catches a touchdown.
I was thinking the same thing.
I am disappointed in us.
A ton of talk about a potential Adrian Peterson revenge spot right against the Vikings. So of course we get Amir Abdullah on his lone touch finding the end zone. Pretty nifty play too.
It was pretty. All right, speaking of pretty, do we have any pretty emojis as we finish up here in the chat for you to shout out?
Yeah, what do we got? Well, we got Brandon just saying go Swift go. I definitely appreciate that. Here's an actual sit-start question from Armand. Should I bench Crowder for Mike Williams? I mean, you can bench Crowder, in my opinion, just for the pleasure of not having anyone connected to that Jets-Patriots game. I don't know how that's going to go. Like, I feel like Mike Williams in what should be a really fun game against the Raiders, should be back and forth. I expect big numbers there. I think Keenan's going to have a day. I think Mike Williams can have another day. I don't know. Would you go Williams over Crowder? I think I would.
I mean, when I'm thinking about which quarterbacks I'd rather tie myself to, I've got touchdown Jesus as Tank, who is Mike Williams' cousin, likes to say, or Joe Flacco potentially. Yes, I'm going to definitely flex Mike Williams.
Yeah, that's a hard no. I've also got RNG saying, benched Jonathan Taylor for Pirine. Hope it pays off. We'll see. Jonathan Taylor's already found the end zone.
Well, let's hope it pays off. You know what? Optimism reigns supreme, especially down the stretch of this year. Is that all you've got in the chat? Anything else?
That's all I got in here. No, I have.
All right.
Yeah, that's all I got. That's all I got. Somebody says Andy rolls. I'll take that. Sure. Thanks.
Andy rolls does all of the things. Did he say rules or rolls?
Rules.
Okay. Andy does rule. So do you guys. Thank you so much for watching. You can always hit us up on Twitter at Yahoo Fantasy. Check back here and continue to use that hashtag AskFFL when asking questions. We appreciate you. We will be back next Sunday. See you later.